Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the F1 Apex F1 podcast. Sorry, my mom took Tylenol when she was pregnant with me, so I am not right mentally. Yes, it
Or
is.
you're just so excited that the gang's all back together.
Yes. Sorry,
yeah, Meredith's here. No, he doesn't know what to do now.
I was in the middle of sending a text, and then Meredith hit record, and I had 4 seconds to get my
You
life
said
together.
hit it.
I know, but I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking. Hi, everyone. I am Paul. I am going to try to lead this ship, and hopefully we don't hit something. You are not dreaming. You are not, this is not a glitch in the system. Meredith is back. She is back from her wonderful trip to Europe. Glad the flooding did not affect her too bad, and she made it back to the U.S. a little sick, but nonetheless, they are back. How was your trip, Meredith?
It was amazing. It was awesome. Being in Europe for 2 weeks sounds really great until you're in Europe for 2 weeks. And it's like, we got sick at that tail end and we were on the train to Paris. And I looked at Joe and I was like, we have to cancel London. We have to go home. Like, I'm ready. I'm ready to be home. So, you know what? If you're thinking about a Europe trip, do it. But just really 10 days is the sweet spot. That's the maximum. But it was fantastic. Awesome time. Great to travel some. Went for the sister's wedding. That was a blast. So yeah, it's just bookending the wedding with trip before and trip after. Very nice.
Absolutely. And then as somebody that's never been to Europe, I was just hearing you guys talk, you miss a lot of certain American amenities while you're in Europe. Something simple as ice and air conditioning, which we think
air conditioning, free water anywhere. You've probably seen it on episodes. I crush about 6 of these a day. And this is a 40 ouncer,
40,
I believe. And I crush 6 of these a day. Over there, you're like, it's like that episode of SpongeBob when he goes to Sandy's place and he's like, water. That's me. And then I do what Josh said before we started recording. I'm like, okay, well, never mind. I'll just have wine because a bottle of wine is 10 euros and a bottle of water is 7. So
yeah, get your money's worth. Might as
well. Absolutely. And the last, but certainly not least, the man with a beautiful mustache and that Mercedes t-shirt. Josh, how are you today?
Yeah. Doing good. Enjoyed the weekend. We got plenty to talk about, obviously. I think this is the beginning of what we've been alluding to for the last several months now.
Yes.
I'm excited.
Yes, we are coming to you guys on Monday after the Singapore Grand Prix. And this race had a little bit of everything. You had an unexpected winner, which we didn't think was going to happen. I think the gloves are finally off with 2 drivers, and with 6 races to go, it's going to get spicy. And a team that's seemingly holding their car together with duct tape and bubble gum, which we're going to get to in a little bit. But let's get right into it. Singapore Grand Prix, guys, what did you think?
Go for it, Josh.
I got what I expected out of it, with just a little bit of little spice there at the beginning in turn 1 that kind of gave us really the only thing to talk about. Pretty boring race, as it usually is. Really tough to overtake. We did see a few, fortunately, thanks to Isaac Hadjar's car being about as useful as a walk-behind lawnmower. And Lewis Hamilton's brakes deciding to disintegrate before his very eyes. So we did have some overtaking. We had some penalties. We had nobody hit a wall, or nobody destroyed their car by hitting a wall. So that was great, especially for the rookies who have never raced there. As you may or may not know, no feeder series race at Singapore. So it's a racetrack that they've never seen, never raced on. And the fact that everybody made it through unscathed on the Sunday was impressive. So obviously we have a lot to talk about with McLaren, but we'll save that for the next little bit. So Meredith, what did you think of the race?
I actually thought it was more exciting than I anticipated. I feel really bad saying I was really wanting someone to send it into the wall, safely, with all due respect.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah, I agree. It would have changed it up. The strategy would have been great.
Well, and when I was reading Ruth's strategy report ahead of the race, it was up until 2024, a 100% yellow flag ratio, with crash. I was like, oh, okay, well, for sure it's coming back this year. And then nothing. And especially after all the different crashes during during the free practice sessions and qualifying, like I was really looking forward to a yellow flag potentially changing things up from the starting order. I especially meaning like with Williams being disqualified from quali, I really wanted a yellow flag to see what moves they could make, which like Carlos Sainz obviously still made those moves. I think he's on a little bit of a heater right now. So I actually thought it was a lot more exciting than I anticipated without there being any sort of big yellow flags. Like I think it was good. I think it was good. I think it was 90 minutes well spent on a Sunday. It wasn't one where I just like sat there and was like, okay, okay. No, like I felt like for it being such a narrow track, I thought there was a lot more excitement. I also did appreciate that I think in terms of the broadcasting, we saw a little bit more of some of those midfield battles, maybe because George had such a steady lead. Obviously, towards the end, there was a lot of coverage on like the Lando Max battle, but I think that there was a lot more coverage of, some of those like 11, 12, 13 spots. And so I appreciated the coverage of that a little bit more than in some of the other races. So, yeah, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I think on track it gave a little to be desired, but I think the headlines and the conversations coming out of this is what's going to make things spicy going into it. And let's just get into it. Lap one, turn 1, 2, a couple turns there. Lando kind of gets things spicy with Oscar. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Fair or a little too risky?
I say
I
fair.
thought it was fair. I mean, I'm biased, but I also think it's just such a double standard. The entire season, we're like, Lando drive aggressively, Lando drive aggressively, and then the second he does, everybody's like, well, papaya rules. Blah. So I think it's such a double standard. I think if Oscar had done that, we would have been like, great driving, Oscar. We've said it all season. Oscar's not afraid to drive elbows out. He's done it against Max. So it's the double standard that continues to happen in the media with Lando. I even had someone message me on TikTok and that were like, well, what were your thoughts? I think that the team favors Lando a lot. He's not a good leader. He's too emotional. And so to me, it goes back to this idea of us pitting two different styles of drivers and two different types of personalities against each other. Like it has to be one or the other. And I don't think that that's necessarily always true. I think Lando can be emotional and Oscar can be the ice king and just show no emotion. There's space for both, but I think there's also space for both styles of driving. And I think it was okay for Lando to go be a little bit more aggressive. He, in his after race interview, talked about how he was a little over aggressive and underestimated his distance to Max. I don't think if he had had that contact with Max, I don't know that he would have had the contact with Oscar. It made him reel out a little bit, but I don't think his driving, it was just a racing incident. And I thought it was fair. And if it had been Oscar that had done the same to Lando, I would feel the exact same way that Oscar was just driving with his elbows out. Fair racing incident.
Josh?
Yeah, I think it was fair. I think that if you see that move, fifth, sixth, further down the order, you would never bat an eye. That's a racing incident, lap one, turn one. The only reason that we're talking about this today and right now is because that's your two championship contenders racing for points paying positions and their teammates, which makes this all the more exciting. So yes, I completely agree. If Lando hadn't had that contact with Max, he probably wouldn't have barged up against Oscar as much. I don't think there would have been nearly as much contact, or at least as strong of contact. Part of me wants to sit here and say, like, yeah, I'm glad that Lando made the move, whatever. I think Lando didn't have a choice. I think he knows that it's coming down to the wire, and if he's not going to be pushing for those positions, it's not going to happen. It's either now or never, especially at Singapore, where he has to do it lap one, turn 1, 2, 3. He's not going to have another opportunity after that. So it was then, or it wasn't going to happen. So I appreciate Lando's aggressiveness. It was actually a really good race start. If you actually look at how much grip he had off the line, I think that's probably one of his better starts of the year. And that's something we've always said is, okay, Lando can't start a race. He always loses positions, blah, 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 blah. So it was nice to see Lando actually kind of step up and have a good race start. So here's where the rubber meets the road for me. If that role was reversed, I do not think it would have had the same outcome. If Oscar had made that move on Lando, Lando is in the lead for the Drivers' Championship, I still think that McLaren would have made them swap positions at some point during that race. I think Lando is favored, whether by Zach Brown's just himself because that's his boy, or whether Andrea Stella or just the team in general. I do think there is a favoritism towards Lando. And as much as I hate to say it, I do think that they would have made them swap positions had that not been the other way around. So I knew this was going to happen at some point. We've been talking about it for months. But I feel at this point now that papaya rules be damned. They're done. They're over. Um, the team secured the
They
constructors.
don't.
They're done. And all it was going to take was one of the two of them to make that move and to be aggressive and to just have that incident. It was going to happen at some point. But now that it's happened, the gloves are off. The papaya rules are done. I think that whether they want to talk about it internally and say you need to, leave space, whatever, Oscar knows what the deal is now.
Mhm.
He's now been pushed out of the way. He knows it's coming. It doesn't matter if Zach Brown and the team want to sit there and say, no, they're going to race clean. They're fair to race. They're clear to race each other, but as long as it's clean, not in Oscar's head now. He is going to be for sure expecting that move again on Lando, and he's not going to be afraid to make it on him the next time around if the role is reversed. So, Paul, what do you think?
Listen, I thought the move was good. I didn't think it was dirty. I think when you look at the film, it was going to happen. Now with that the constructors title is up and wrapped up, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's a 22-point gap between Oscar and Lando, and it's going to be interesting. You saw Oscar. There was a huge level of disappointment with him. It feels like going into Coda, which is a fun track and one that does bring in some good overtaking. I think we're going to see a different level of Oscar, and I think he's just ready to put it all out there and fight with his teammate. You even saw it in the videos when they were celebrating the win with with the champagne. There was a level of disappointment in Oscar's face, shutting off the mic or the radio thing when Zach Brown is talking to him. That speaks volumes, and I think we're going to see. I don't know if unhinged is the word, but I think we're going to see a much more selfish driver when it comes to Oscar going into this. Because I think you are right. I think the team, without saying it, they're favoring Lando, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting.
Okay, but like
So
I have a
to your
question about that, Josh. Like
yeah,
your theory is that if it had happened in the reverse and like Lando was in the lead of the constructors championship, I mean the drivers championship, that they would have made him swap and give it back. But like Oscar's in the lead, so why wouldn't a
because
McLaren?
they would favor it. They would favor Lando in
Yeah,
that
but like
position.
let's talk about it logistically because we're saying like they kept the gloves on to wrap up the constructors, but if their whole priority is getting the championship and prioritizing whoever is leading, like my thought is if they were going to do that and follow that strategy to secure that bag, then like they would have said, Lando give that position back to Oscar at some point in this race. They wouldn't have given them the opportunity of who's going to pit first. They would have said, hey, Lando had the wing clipped issue on the front. Oscar's in the lead for the drivers' championship. We're going to prioritize that. Hey, Lando, we're going to pitch you first. Oscar's going to come in, whatever. Like to me, Oscar's in the championship. Like I'm a Lando fan, but Oscar's an incredible driver. He's in the lead if the McLaren strategies were going to do what we got to do to secure the bag, and if they were going to make a driver swap positions back to prioritize the driver that's in the lead for the championship, then they would have done it with Oscar. Like they should have said, "Hey, Lando, you're going to have to give that back." Like Oscar, he's the lead. We're prioritizing him. I don't know. I just like I don't necessarily agree with the idea that if roles were reversed, they would have made them give the position up. I think they knew at that point they knew it was a racing incident. They knew it was clean. And at that point, they knew papaya rules were done. There's no there is no giving the team order to swap those positions back the moment that happened. Let's be honest. If they would have given orders to switch that back, Lando would not have given it up, and I fully believe that. Same if she was on the other foot. Oscar would not give that position up. And moving forward, neither of them will be following team orders to give positions back, swap positions back. I fully believe that. There is no longer that papaya rules. That is out the window. So I guess I disagree with the logic that if roles were reversed, like because Oscar's ahead. They in all rights should be prioritizing Oscar. A 22-point lead can change within one race. One thing happens, another driver takes them out at a start and there's a DNF, 22 points could separate Max, jumping back up in there. So I don't know. I think that I think Dak favors Lando. I think Andrea favors Oscar. I think they each have their person and they each have such different roles. I think Zach and Lando are very similar in how they are with the media, very extroverted. But let's not forget who Oscar's manager is. Mark Webber. And Paul, I don't think unhinged, I'm with you, unhinged isn't the right word, but I think we are about to see Oscar enter his boundaries era, not a villain era. Like I've seen all this stuff about his villain era on social media and it's great. I think we're about to see Oscar enter his boundaries era where he's like, no, it's in my contract. There cannot be a number one driver. I get equal opportunity. And I think we're about to see him come out and make some moves. The last 3 races have not been super awesome for Oscar. They've not been his best performances, but coming into a track like Coda where there's a lot of overtaking opportunity, like you said, and Oscar's really great at overtaking. He's really great at turns. So I think Oscar's going to do very well at Coda.
So I think for me, twofold. I think one that the disappointment and what we're seeing out of Oscar now is loss of faith in the team. Because all year long we've been preached that as long as it's clean, they can race each other. But the moment it's not clean, then we'll step in. We saw them step in several times. Oscar had opportunities to overtake Lando twice this year and was told to back off to make sure that Lando's race was not in any danger. Austria was a great example. He had several opportunities in Austria.
The dog is passionate about
The
this
dog
topic
is
as
killing
well.
this. All right, so Austria, Oscar has several opportunities. He's right there on Lando. He's got the DRS. Austria is a very easy track to overtake. He has opportunities. He gets a little bit too close on one corner and one opportunity and is told to abort the entire chance to take that position back. He does so, obliges. He follows the team game. He does it again. He swaps position after Oscar has the bad pit stop, right? I think I've seen several things. This of Singapore, Oscar had a bad pit stop, right? He had this opportunity to try to make gains on Lando due to their strategy choices. I'm putting that dog out. Come here.
Yeah, no, Josh's dog is he's very passionate. He's a big F1 guy. You could tell. He's like, "Dad, I have something I need to say."
Ranked number 1 F1 dog.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't see a scenario where McLaren comes on top of this in a PR way and wins. I think whatever happens in these last 6 races, it's gonna I don't know if it leaves a blemish on the 2025 season, but I
What
think
absolutely does.
it's just going to be tough because, much like Josh said, they've publicly have said time and time again, there's not a number one driver. There's not a number one driver. There can only be one winner. You can't cut the trophy down the middle and say, yeah, you both win. Somebody's going to be upset.
That's what a constructors is for.
Right. Somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's going to be hurt. And if they keep this infighting, it's going to be the same issue that happened in 07 when McLaren was infighting within themselves and Kimi ended up winning the world title. There's a 63 different point difference between Max and Oscar, and we're coming into some of Max's favorite tracks, which is Mexico, which is Brazil. I don't know much about Vegas, but I think Brazil and Mexico are 2 tracks that Max is really good at, and he's won. So it's going to be very interesting. And at the end of the year, Zach Brown has some very difficult questions to answer.
I just think that, like from the media perspective, like as fans, we all see it and we're like, this is such a huge mistake, like this is a PR nightmare. But at the end of the day, they just won 2 back-to-back constructor championships. So I guess like if you're a stakeholder, McLaren, you may go, we don't care what the media says. We're back-to-back constructors champion. Last year, we had a driver that just, was competitive, was in there, hung in there, got second. Oscar was right up there too. And now this year, your drivers have been dominating all year. They're the top 2 fighting for the title. So I guess like from a business perspective, Zach doesn't have a lot he has to answer to right now. Now, no, there's no such thing as bad press for them. But do I think it's the right move? No. And do I think that it's very clear that Andrea Stella has an issue with it? Yes. It does not seem like Andrea Stella likes this at all. And I bet the team doesn't either. I bet the team would prefer that there be clarity to avoid this type of stuff happening.
And to a certain degree, I agree with you um, that there's no such thing as bad publicity. But at the end of the day, the car has been a rocket ship. That's been shown true and true again. But you don't do this without two drivers. And you're gonna piss them off. And F1 is a shark of a sport. Somebody's gonna try to snag these drivers up. And if you
100%.
and if you piss off a young driver like Oscar, somebody like Mercedes or a Ferrari or a Red Bull are gonna try to snag him up and be like, dude, you are number one. You are number one. And this is where you're gonna piss them off to the point that they might leave. And what do you do then?
Yeah, I think that would be the fear is at this point now, you've got a driver, I think an Oscar, who feels like he deserves the right to this championship, or at least be at least he feels like he's in a position where he's earned the right to be supported by the team in a way that he is not feeling it right now. He feels like the team is prioritizing Lando. Throughout this year, he's been forced, or at least asked, and he's followed through with team orders multiple times to benefit Lando, and it has not come the other way around for him. And yet he's still in the lead of this championship. I think
I disagree
Oscar,
that it hasn't. Lando has followed team orders two different times this season. He did it last season in Hungary, and it led to Oscar getting that win, all because of a pit. So maybe it's not an even scoreboard, but Lando has absolutely followed team orders this year as well. So,
but
but
have those team
I
orders?
agree with you that I 100% see why Oscar has lost that love and feeling a little bit. It's yeah, if I were him, I'd be like, and if I were Mark, I'd be behind the scenes having talks.
Yeah,
Does anybody know how long Oscar's contract is through? Is it through
I think it's 2 years.
2027 or 2028?
Let me look, see if a Google search can give
Know
us
which
the
one?
answer.
I mean, either way, I mean, there's plenty of clauses in these contracts that if they wanted to, they could back out of it. I mean, I'm sure there's clauses in there that say if he does not get treated like the number one driver, then he could be, null and
Which
void of the
he
contract.
does. He does have that clause in his. I
So
remember that
they
he
could
does
point
have
to
the
that and say,
non-reject clause
"Well,
in
here
there.
you go. I'm leading the championship. I was forced off. It would have been a forced off track anywhere else, but just forced away, and I've lost out on points that could be crucial come down to the end of the year, and the team didn't support me. So I could definitely see Oscar's, frustration and potential for looking outside of McLaren if this continues.
So there's no actual like date, but from everything that I
It
can
was just
see
like a
online,
multi-year
it's
extension.
potentially until 2028.
That's what I was thinking, a multi-year. I guess like what I do hate for Oscar right now is that like because he has been so Ice King, stone cold, whatever. It's like I think so many people have assumed that just because he is like that, that like things don't affect him. And now these last few races, we're seeing that facade crumble. And not that it's necessarily just a facade. Like he is really resilient. He is such a strong driver. I think because he has kind of created this image in the media that he is just Mr. Robot, shows no emotion whatsoever. These last three races have worn on him. We have seen a different side of him in the media. We have seen him be upset, and he deserves that. He deserves the space to do that. Um, I think what I hate though is that again it goes back to this dichotomy of like it has to be one or the other. Drivers have to be either completely stoic like Oscar has been, or if they're super emotional, express their frustrations, then they're not a good leader. Like there has to be some middle ground. Like these drivers are humans, they are competitors. They've put their everything into this. This is their lifeline, and Oscar has every right to be frustrated, to be disappointed. Like, yeah, your team just won the constructors, but for you, you just missed out on a podium. And you had a tough start to the race where you feel like your team went back on you. You have every right to be upset. And just because your team won the constructors, you don't have to all of a sudden be like rah rah rah. But I that brings me to a question I have for you guys. There is so much in the media right now about the team celebrating without Oscar and how they intentionally left Oscar out. Like there's no world in which I believe a team would intentionally leave a driver out of a constructors championship celebration. There had to have been I personally think that there had to have been something of like, Lando's up on the podium, team has to run up there right now. Y'all have 3 minutes to get up there to do this celebration. We've got to shut this shit down. And there like was just a miscommunication and Oscar was still down doing press. Like that's what I'm assuming had to have happened. But everything I'm seeing in the way the media is turning it was that the team intentionally celebrated without Oscar. Like, what are y'all's thoughts on that? What's y'all's take on that?
Before I get into that, according to a quick Google search, Lando Norris's contract expires at uh, supposedly at the end of the 2026 season. So it looks like Oscar's got a longer contract than Lando does with the team. But the media's always going to do what the media's always going to do. They're always going to spin it for headlines. They're always going to spin it for clickbait. I think it was just one of those. They started celebrating because they were super excited, and Oscar needed the extra couple minutes in the media pen to kind of gather his thoughts and go back to a way of celebrating. I don't think there's anything more to it. I don't think the team did it intentionally to piss him off. It was just one of those, I'm going to answer these questions in the media pen. I'm going to take a couple minutes to gather my thoughts, and then I can go celebrate and drink champagne with the team. Yeah, Josh?
I don't think it was planned. Obviously, I think it was like a last minute thing. Like we've seen, like I'm reading right now a tweet from a McLaren mechanic saying it was last minute. The team was asked to go celebrate last minute, blah, blah, blah. Here's my problem. There is no world in which that team should have allowed that to happen the way it did. Yes, they're on a time crunch, but there is no way that that was ever going to go well for them. Regardless of what you think the media is going to spin it or whatever, you're up there celebrating your Constructors' Championship without one of your drivers who is the leader of the championship right now. And you left him down there in the media pen to see that shit on TV and react to it in real time in front of the entire media pen. What an absolute disgrace from McLaren to do that to him. If they want to say, hey, you know what? If you guys got to do what you got to do, if you can give us 5 minutes to go right down there and tell Oscar to come up here right now and make this happen.
Yeah, if
we're not doing it.
Or Andrea, I would have been like, I'll pay your fine. Get out. Let's go.
Yeah,
I'll pay your fine.
No
not
way.
For media. Come on.
There's no way I would allow my team to go up there and celebrate without the key of the season so far. The most consistent driver, the points getter, the guy that's leading the championship. And that right there just rubs salt in the wound for Oscar. He can be upset. Maybe
100%.
he looks back at the onboards for Lando and says, you know what? I get it. It was a racing incident. It couldn't have been avoided. It screwed up my race, but it wasn't really Lando's fault. I don't really have anything to be mad about. But then he can turn around and look at that and go, okay, well, wait a minute. Why is the team seemingly up here celebrating with Lando when I'm down stuck here in the media pen? Yeah, it is absolutely disgraceful. Just it's one thing to we can talk about team orders and we can talk about favoritism, but it's another thing to have it in full display like that. I don't know. That was a rough one, especially looking and seeing the Oscars reactions.
Sorry, on my laptop's not
It's all right.
No, you're fine. As it was happening, Oscar literally turning around and seeing what was happening on TV, finding out just like we did, and then watching his face and just like, like just the defeat and the disappointment.
Honestly, heartbreaking.
And the hurt. Yeah, it hurt. It hurt his feelings. He's a kid. I mean, he's not, it's an old grizzled veteran. It's not a Fernando Alonso who can just say, fuck it, whatever. I've done this before. This is a guy who's in a position to, win everything he's ever dreamed of, and had that moment kind of robbed from him.
Potentially win that with a team who wasn't there to make sure he got up there to celebrate with. That would suck.
Man, yeah. I mean,
that's why I wouldn't be surprised if he starts looking somewhere else. That's one big one.
I mean, but where would you see him going?
Red Bull,
Mercedes, Ferrari.
I could see Mercedes.
Mark Webber and Red Bull. I think we're starting.
You think he wants to go play number 2 fiddle to Max? He's just been playing number 2 fiddle to Lando.
No, I think because
I don't think he would shy away from the challenge.
But also I think we're starting to see the closing chapters of a Max Verstappen run with F1, especially after the success that he had with GT3 this past, what is it, 2 weekends ago. I think
Hmm.
he wants to challenge himself to do other things. He's already a 4-time world champion. He's going to go down as one of the greatest of all times. What is there left to prove? And if he can
He
somehow
wants to win more championships than Lewis.
and if somehow but I don't think for him it's about that. And he said it. I don't think he's going to stay until his 40s running F1 when he's a father and he has other ventures to do.
I mean, but he's 28. He just turned 20, or he turns 28 tomorrow. It's not like he's like 33, 34, like Danny Rick chasing down his dreams was.
But I
He was just turning 28 this week.
Sure. But even he's come out and publicly said that he's not going to do this forever, and he's definitely not going to do it into his 40s. Oscar's contract is seemingly up in 28. I think that's a perfect amount of time for him to swap over to a Red Bull car. And this is
I don't even think it would take that long.
I don't think he's
I
staying
think
there till 28.
I think if depending on how this year ends, he may not be there this time. No, he may not be there at the beginning of next season.
I think that's too bold of a statement to make just yet.
It is. It's way forecasting. I mean, a lot of things would have to happen, but this is like kind of the beginning of. You could see pointing to this in the future and saying, "Oh yeah, I remember the beginning of the end, Singapore. That was terrible." You could point to this moment of being like the precipice of the beginning of the end of Oscar Piastri's career at McLaren. Now, if it
I
had,
just have such beef with Singapore. Like, Singapore ruined me with Danny Rick last year. Now Singapore broke my heart with Oscar. Like, Singapore and I have beef.
have beef. Well, listen, as we kind of wrap this topic up, so we can move on to something else. There's 13 days until lights out in Coda. That's 13 days for a lot to happen within the Oscar camp, within the Lando camp, and within the team of McLaren. It's going to be interesting to see the headlines that come out of it, the interviews that come out of it, and the on-track action to come out of Coda. Sorry, brain fart. So moving on to Max, I think I just want to talk about what a great driver he is. That car was broken. He struggled throughout that whole race and still be able to put that in second place. That really goes to show what a great driver he is. And I think there was times when Lando could have overtaken him, but I think he took the safe route to just get points on the board instead of going for the overtake, which
I think Lando thought, I did my big one first lap. I'm not gonna, play with fire a second time in a race.
Correct. As somebody like me who's been screaming at the top of his lungs that I want some wheel-to-wheel action, I think you also have to understand that just playing it safe, some points is better than no points. So
Yeah,
I can't.
especially when he knew that Oscar was right behind him and that if he screwed up anything, it could cost him valuable time when Oscar was right on his tail. So I think he actually made the smarter move. I agree that there were a couple of looks there on a couple of those laps where he had a chance at it, and I think he realized the points for him where he is, for them to secure the constructors, for him to continue to advance and get points. I think he made the smart move. But Max,
yeah, I think
I actually didn't think Max's car looked bad this weekend. Like,
I know
I thought he looked good, and I thought for most of the race, like, I was interested to hear what he was saying in his radio, because I was like, there were a couple of times when I was like, okay, yeah, that doesn't look great. But then overall, I was like, for him to be clearly in second the entire race, like, that was not I don't know, like, I felt like the things we were hearing on the radio from him were not the reality of like what we saw on the TV. So I was a little confused. I texted you guys. I was like, I think Max is playing games on the radio, because it looked pretty good overall. And for him to be able to defend Lando for 12 laps at the end of the race, I was really impressed.
maybe there was. Sorry, Josh, go ahead. I skipped over you.
so. I think that part of Max's issue was he was told to really push on his outlaps after his pit stop to try to defeat the strategy of the overcut from McLaren to retain his position. So I think that he burned up a lot of his rubber early in his stint, and then by the middle, towards the end of his stint, he was starting to really struggle with some of the grip. We saw him kind of have a few close calls with some lockups that put him in bad positions through apexes, and Max is really in tune to his car. So I'm sure more than anything, he's feeling just those small, minute changes and complaining about them when they're really probably not causing a whole lot of loss of lap time. He just feels the lack of grip or a little bit of slide here and there, and he's just complaining because he knows that car so well and he can feel every small movement. Um, it's not like he was losing tenths of a second or hundredths of a second on issues with the car. I don't think so. But I do think that Lando was told to back off because of the damage to the front wing. I think they were like, hey, if we have to stop to change your front wing, it's going to screw up everybody's race and potentially make McLaren not win the constructors championship this weekend. If he had been bounced out of, like, I think, sixth place, he'd not had enough points to secure it mathematically. So maybe he was told to lay off. Maybe the damage to the front wing was significant enough that he couldn't overcome the dirty air from Max's car to make a lunge on him. I'm not sure. But I noticed that McLaren had two bad pit stops again towards the end there, which didn't help his chances of overtaking Max on older tires either. So
I need the McLaren pit team to really
Lock it in.
mhm.
Yeah, so I mean, and maybe Meredith is right a little bit. Maybe it was Max playing possum a little bit, and with the radio, I mean, we see pit teams do this. They go out with tires and they go, psych, we're not going to pit, just to psych out the other team. So maybe there was a little bit of that, but you still got to give the man some flowers. He's
Oh
slowly
yeah,
chipping
I mean
away
he's
at that
incredible.
at that.
Just
Mhm.
I don't necessarily know that I agree with you, Paul. Like that man loves racing so much and he loves being competitive. He's 27, turning 28. I know he said he's not going to race into his 40s like Fernando, but like I do see it, especially because he's back in the title fight right now. He is back in the title fight with 6 races to go. Like, you know, he just keeps getting up in there. He's getting his juices flowing again after a really, really rough start to the season. I see Max racing for several more years in F1. Like, yeah, I know, not to his 40s. You realize 28 to 40 is 12 freaking years, Paul. Like,
I went
I
to
think we're
public
gonna.
school, but I can still do that little bit of math.
I did too. I'm just saying, like, I think Max just has that drive in him, and I love seeing him on the grid. I think we will see him for many more years on the grid. I think next year, I think Red Bull has, like, look at what Red Bull has done in the last several races. I think they've learned their lesson. Give that man a car. Give that man a car. They've learned, and I think I'm already excited to see what Red Bull comes with for the 2026 season, to see what it looks like. I think, I don't know. I like seeing Max do well. I like there being competition. Um, uh, Max not performing on the grid is weird, like the beginning of the season, I was like, I haven't known a time in F1 where Max wasn't just like killing it and dominating. So it's just different.
If I had to put my prediction hat on for the rest of his career, I see him in a couple more years in F1, and then I see him taking a break from F1 to follow other ventures, endurance racing. Maybe we see him in a NASCAR. I don't know. This is just me off the top of my head, but I
That man
definitely.
will never NASCAR.
But
No,
That man
I
is
he will never NASCAR.
no.
but what I'm trying to
He'd
say
make
is
a rally.
I definitely see him doing other ventures within motorsports for a couple years, and then finishing his career out with F1. I think that's where I see him doing. It it it'll be it'll be interesting to see what the trajectory of his career. I'm not ready for a world in F1 without a Lewis Hamilton or a Max Verstappen in it. So that's going to be weird to see in whenever that happens. Let's switch gears over to Mercedes. Josh and I talked about it ad nauseum last week. This is going to be a hot race. This is going to be a miserably hot race. The drivers hate it, and the conditions and temperature are not conducive for a Mercedes Benz to be as successful as it is.
Yeah, I was
But
confused.
George friggin' did amazing. He was seemingly, we never really saw him. He was gone from the start, had a great qualifying lap. George is slowly but surely etching himself to be a great driver, and I'm willing to go as far as say there's a championship in his future at some point if he keeps up this great drive. Also, I don't understand why Mercedes doesn't give him a contract right now. And
I'm so confused by that. The beginning of the season, we kept calling Mercedes the dark horse, the dark horse, the dark horse, right? Like, and I think we're seeing a resurgence, especially when a car that is not designed for the heated elements and the hot tracks to perform the way both him and Kimmy did great too. Like we need to talk about Kimmy too. Kimmy had an incredible race. I think it was an amazing weekend for Mercedes. George needed this at Singapore. He needed this. I was thrilled.
Yeah, yeah, and then going into this year where the spotlight in that team was Kimmy. Hell, they even made a Netflix little mini documentary on Kimmy and what a great protege he is. George just very quietly has beat him out of the water. I think currently it stands at George 237 at Kimmy at 88 points. I mean, yes, Kimmy's a rookie and there's a lot big learning curve.
Huge.
George has shown that he is the number one driver in that team and he deserves more love than he's getting. And maybe there's some, Josh has alluded to this, hopefully there's been some talks behind the scenes and there's something there, but I would like Toto to come out and publicly give him more love and appreciation than he has gotten.
Yeah, like you said, the focus has been on Kimmy. I mean, George, not so quietly, has done very well this year, and people are taking notice. They've seen I think he's the only driver now to have finished every Grand Prix in the 2025 season. So he is having a great time of not wrecking or failing out of any of these races, which is great considering the fact that he is driving a Mercedes, which had been prone to some issues earlier in the year that they may have gotten ironed out. But he's getting a lot of points. He's up there pretty regularly in these races. He did need a good victory here, or at least a good performance in Singapore, just to get the taste of 2019 out of his mouth, because that's just, everybody always points to that one, and it's an easy one to just pick on him for, but now he'll never have to hear about that again since he actually won it. So that's great for George to pick that one up. Mercedes had a great weekend. I think Toto was still disappointed in Kimmy a little bit after qualifying, just being several seconds out or a couple seconds off of
But
pace. It's
Toto,
just
chill. It's
but
his
Toto can't
first
chill.
season. Yeah, Toto has no chill.
He's got no chill.
And
I
that
like there was a episode of the Red Flags podcast that I saw a clip of on TikTok, and it was like they do this like gas or brakes little segment, and they had Gunther on, and the question was like, gas or brakes. Kimmy should not have been put in Mercedes. Kimmy should have been put in Williams to learn the pressure of F1, get him accustomed to it before a year, before being moved up. And Gunther said all gas, full full gas, moving Kimmy up to F1 and putting him in the Mercedes seat whenever it's also George's first year, really stepping into that leadership role. We've seen him really stabilize as a driver, a lot less unforced errors. He's really growing into his own. Like, would it have been better for George to grow into that leadership role as the team lead with another experienced driver who could contribute, put Kimmy in the Williams seat, get him a little bit more accustomed to the pressures of F1? Like I heard Gunther talk about that a little bit, and I actually was listening to it, and it's like, having watched the seat and having watched the belief that Toto has in Kimmy, I see both sides of it, but it is hard to watch like Toto be disappointed in Kimmy, but then Kimmy still finishing where he is. Like, to be scoring 88 points in your first F1 season, that's incredible. Like that's amazing. And I think it's just like this idea of like the legend of Kimmy versus like people need to let that go and just be like, wow, a first year, a rookie has 88 points in his first F1 season. That's incredible.
Yeah, a
I don't know. I think
19-year-old, a barely 19-year-old kid
yes.
is racing at the pinnacle of motorsport and is performing well in one of the top teams in the sport. Yeah, it's fantastic. And I don't think George needed another veteran in there next to him or anybody else. I think George has taken the reins and has really proved that he absolutely was ready to be the number
Oh,
one man.
100%. I agree. I've been
No question.
absolutely impressed by George. He's done great. I do still love a sassy, whiny George radio. Like
Yeah.
Karen George, I don't care how advanced you become as a leader, as a driver, champion, winner in the future, whatever. If Karen George ever leaves my radios, I don't want him. I want him. I love him. I need him.
Absolutely, absolutely. But you brought up a good point, and I think we can talk about that in the off season. The Kimmy to Mercedes, whether that was a good move or bad move. Let's put a pin on that because I think that opens up a world of discussion that we can take on for a while. So let's talk about that later on this off season. But that is a topic I do want to get into. As we kind of wrap up Singapore, Man, Ferrari. Can we briefly talk about that and just what an awful showing they've been having? Lewis's brakes just get destroyed right before his very eyes. Eh, I don't know. Like we talked about it in the group chat. It seems like I'm the glass half empty kind of guy when it comes to Ferrari. Josh is the all eternal optimist or the glass half full kind of guy.
That's me. I'm like, everything's rainbows and roses.
But at a year where they finished second last year, they came in with such hype. I don't think they fully understand this car. They're not investing in it because 26 is happening next year and a whole new set of regulations. But just two drivers that are just defeated. The car is put together by duct tape and bubblegum, like I alluded at the beginning of the episode. And it's a tough watch because they both drivers deserve better. It's a cruel sport. And yeah, what are you guys' thoughts on it?
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm gonna be the one to say it. I hated the end of that race. From the racing directors and the TV director standpoint, because I didn't get to watch any of Lewis
None of
in
it.
his
We
brakes.
saw none of it.
They were just like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, Lewis has no brakes, and like Fernando's like 0.4 seconds off. By the way, just saying. Here's a nice video of the crowd cheering. Ah, yeah, cool. So we missed out on like this incredible last lap where Lewis just turned off the boundaries on his video game and just drove straight through every chicane, cut every corner. They said that like there's on the like I guess in the broadcast booth there's a ticker that shows like when there's infractions or like track events that pop up, and like they were like, yeah, it's like the last 7 of these are Lewis Hamilton track limits violations. Like I would have loved to have watched that because I look back on some of the stuff after the race, obviously, and there's flames coming out from his brake ducts
They're
are shooting
literally
fire
on
behind him.
fire.
They're
Like,
exploding. And for Fernando's radio was fantastic after the fact, where he was just dropping the F-bomb like crazy, which, okay, fine. Like, I get why the FIA didn't want to, put that on TV, but come on, that's what we're here for.
but they put all his other ones on there.
I know. I put all his other ones on there, so I would have loved to have watched that. So I think that was a huge miss by the TV director to rob us of the moment of watching Lewis just drag that thing back across the line. But like you said, Paul, Ferrari seems to have made a giant mistake of reworking the car this year. They came out really early in the offseason and said that they were going in a completely different direction and they were trying all this stuff.
They should
No
have done
idea
that.
why they did that and invested all that time and engineering and money into, it's a car that was already performing pretty well. Like you said, got second in the constructors last year. And it's just a complete mystery to them. It seems like it just is all over the place across the board. Whenever they try to make setup adjustments, it just has the opposite effect, or it does not nearly give the desired effect that was intended. Like you said, they deserve better. Charles deserves better by far. That poor kid.
Yes.
Charles is going to be the golden boy Ferrari that got away if they're not careful, because he's a wasted talent right now, and that's unfortunate to say when it's the most historic team in the sport. And you want to see Lewis do well too with the last few years that he's got left in the sport, more than likely. So Ferrari's just kind of dead in the water. I don't expect them to do anything for the rest of the year. So we'll just let them kind of slowly dwindle away into midfield obscurity and let the big boys battle up front. There's nothing else to be done.
Broke, don't fix it. Like,
Yeah,
that's how I feel.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. Like, what the hell was Ferrari thinking? Like, they won multiple races last year. Like, let's just completely change things. So it's tough. I feel really grateful that I am both a McLaren and a Ferrari fan. It has worked out quite well for me that usually, at least in any season, I at least have like drivers and teams I can root for, but it has been tough this year. Yeah, it's been tough.
Yeah,
But somehow still both finishing, points. Like, I'm like, okay. Like, at this point, I'm like, well, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, look, they got points. Yeah, good job, guys. Yeah, it's so nice.
Yeah.
It's like Williams. Like, that's how I would treat Williams if I saw, good job, guys. I can't believe you got points. That's so great for you this weekend. But we're talking about, the Scuderia.
Yeah, Lewis was driving that car the way I drive the simulator, just cutting every corner and not giving a hell about the rules. So
yeah, and then
imagine.
Lawson was driving all weekend like I drive my simulator, just straight into the wall. Except he just didn't do it during the race.
I, Josh alluded to it a little bit ago. I think my biggest complaint is the TV director not giving us the action shots that we deserve. There were so many. I mean, what is it? Alex had a few overtakes. Ali Behrman had few overtakes, and
Ollie
yet
had
Carlos
quite a
Sainz,
few.
Carlos Sainz
There was there
going
Yeah,
was
from what,
18
18th?
points.
there was a
Yeah.
lot of great
Never saw him. Don't remember seeing him at all during the
there
race.
was there
So
was a lot of great midfield battles yesterday that we just completely missed, and it's one of those that we only see them on Monday on TikTok, and it's like, oh yeah, great, but
I do feel like they showed more of it, but they didn't show the ones that were like now they showed a lot more like midfield and backfield stuff yesterday than they usually do, but it's not the ones that like matter.
yeah, in a world where F1 is talking about how they need more action and to attract younger viewers, why don't we show these overtakes? Some of the midfield battles, some of these teams are literally fighting for their lives. It's Williams has 72 points, Aston Martin has 68 points, Kick Sauber at 55. I mean, there's a gap there. A couple races can really change the trajectory of that. And
But even like in terms of like sponsorships and money, like I don't know if you
correct.
guys saw the video of the Haas garage yesterday when Ollie finished in the points. Everybody in the Haas garage is like cheering, and like some people in the garage are like tearing up because like to teams like Haas that are second to last, like every single point matters. It's not like
millions of
Ferrari where we're
dollars.
like, yay, you both finished in the points when it's like, duh, you should be your Ferrari. But like for teams like Haas where Ollie finishing in the points means money for them, like it's huge. So I think like I'm excited, and especially like in the last 6 races of the season last year, we saw a lot change with like Haas and Alpine and stuff like that, and Sauber, like not Sauber, but it was really like Haas and Alpine were battling towards the end of the season. So like the the things that I'm looking forward to at this point in the season. Constructor's already done and secured, like the drivers championship. That'll continue and be exciting. I'm excited to see more of those like mid to backfield team battles because you never know what's going to happen. Like Alpine podiums last year changed so much that at that Brazil race, like that means so much money for them. And so like I'm excited to see what happens towards the back end of some of these random points winners and what it means for sponsorships and what it affords them for the next season.
Which is why I think the point structure should go all the way down to 15th instead of finishing in 10th, because I think that would make things much more interesting for those midfield teams. It's tough to finish in the top 10 every time, especially if you're a midfield team. But if we can extend those points to 15, it really would spice things up a lot and make every weekend that much more of a competition for these teams.
Yeah. It'll be interesting.
Well, guys, let's start with kind of wrapping up Singapore. Josh, any last final thoughts on this weekend before we get into our prediction points and how awful we did?
No, I think Singapore is one of those that we will remember for all the wrong reasons. Think that I don't think anything is going to really come out about this in the media, at least directly from Oscar or his camp or even McLaren's camp. Nothing will be said over the next 2 weeks. They'll act like everything's fine and dandy. This is something that we'll talk about throughout the off season as people start to speak their mind and actually we kind of get an idea of what actually happened behind closed doors. This is something that we'll have to come back and circle back to over the offseason and discuss probably at length again. But this is going to be maybe this could be like the beginning of whatever is going to happen for the rest of the year. This sets the stage in several different ways for what the last 6 races have for us. So it's a good one to keep in mind as context for everything that happens going forwards.
So are you saying this is the origin story for the villain that is Oscar Piastri?
I don't know what it's going to be the origin story of, but it will be the origin story of something. It could be the origin story of Max Verstappen's greatest comeback. It could be the story of Lando Norris getting, favoritism from a team. It could be the story of Oscar Piastri taking matters into his own hands and just doing whatever he wants. Team orders, papaya rules be damned. So we don't know what it's going to
Why
be.
did
But
I
it's
just
the
picture Oscar Piastri as like Thanos?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it could just be. It's going to be it's the beginning of something. I just don't know what yet.
Meredith, what are your last final thoughts on everything?
Me, the eternal optimist. I think that this is just the point of the season where now that the constructors is done, I've got McLaren check, yay. I think again, I'm just super excited to start focusing maybe more on some of those backfield teams that have really been on the rise. I'm really excited to watch Williams, really excited to watch Haas. Williams has been on a heater. Alex Albon has driven consistently all season. Carlos Sainz is really finally getting dialed in with the car. Ollie Behrman has been improving so much, so much, so much. Even Gabby Bortoleto has been improving and driving really well. So I think this is the time of the year where, yes, I'm excited about the drivers' championship battle, but I'm just excited to shift and kind of start focusing on maybe more the teams that don't get as much of my attention the other parts of the year, and just really getting to dive in and show them some more love.
Yeah. The World Championship battle is really tightening up, and let's not forget George is only 99 points away. If there's a lot of infighting towards the top three, he might. There's a chance. There's a small glimmer of hope with him being able to chip away at some points. So, yeah, this is one of those tracks that doesnn't give us a lot of wheel to wheel racing and overtaking, but the headlines
But
coming out of
Coda
it,
sure as hell will.
Yeah.
perfect. And yeah, we are 9 days away from the three of us in Coda, walking those grounds, and I can't.
And walking we will.
There's gonna be a
You'll be
lot of
walking all
walking.
day.
I got my outfit all picked out. I am ready to
You
go.
need 3. You cannot wear that more than one day. I
No,
swear
no,
to
no,
God, you will stink, and we
no.
will not associate with you.
That is just gonna be for Sunday.
Okay.
On the other days, I'll dress like a normal human. But let's get into these predictions because I think we all did an awful job. Let me just refresh you guys on the points. Josh was in the lead with 15, followed by Meredith and I tied with 13 points. Yeah, that should tell you everything you need to know there. Meredith, what did you predict for this week?
Okay. I had Max, Lando, Oscar, Williams, double points. Make
Nothing.
that goose egg.
Big fat goose egg. I had Max, Oscar, and Lando, and V-Card double points. Big old goose egg on my end. Josh, do you remember what you had, or do you need me to refresh your memory?
I had Lando, Oscar, and then George. Almost had George there. I just underestimated his powers.
Yes.
And then my shocker was
the dark horse.
I did. I gotta stop doing that. And then I had my shocker prediction was points for both Fernando Alonso and Nico Hulkenberg, which I got Fernando, but Hulkenberg just had a very poor race, and starting in 11th place, I really thought I had something going on there. So that was unfortunate. That was close.
So the three of us, I think this might be the first time the three of us get a
First
goose
time
egg.
ever.
So Josh is still in the lead, followed by Meredith and I. So hopefully we can have a better prediction for Coda. But that's kind of it for the day, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. I hope you laughed with us along the way. And yeah, please engage with us on social media, ask questions. I'm sure this is going to bring a
Back
lot
on
of...
all the socials with all the clips.
Absolutely. We are back.
Stuff.
Meredith is back. Adult supervision is back. So we are not unhinged and wild.
Terrifying when I'm the adult.
Yes, it is
That's not
very...
the idea.
It is very terrifying. But
Joe will be our adult next weekend.
Perfect. We need somebody to be.
You have not seen me in the wild. I'm going to need somebody to guide me.
Little feral Coda rat.
You're going to have to put a special hat on me so I don't get lost.
Joe's going to have us all on leashes, like the kid backpack leashes.
Yeah. Just come on.
But on that note,
retractable.
Josh has a flight. Yeah, Josh has a flight to catch here because he's going to the wonderful world of Florida to catch some sun. And Meredith got the COVID to recover from and drink her ice-filled liquids.
Ice cold water.
Absolutely. On that note, everybody, have a great week. Take care, everyone. And we will be talking to you guys next week. We'll have another episode with our predictions on Coda and just kind of letting you guys know where the three of us will be. If you happen to be going, you can stop by, say hi, take a pictures, get a couple stickers, and just chit chat with us. We are looking forward to getting to know all of you guys and meeting new fans and seeing what kind of trouble and adventure we get into, guys. So on that note, take care. Have a beautiful week, guys.
See y'all.